Hello, you're listening to the Neil Lamptey Show. My name's Joey, and I'm joined by Paul.
All right, mate.
And Neil.
Hello, Joey.
Paul, I was optimistic on the way to Bradford, wasn't I?
You were indeed.
Foolish as it turned out.
Definitely very foolish.
Yeah, I don't understand how long I'm going to have to watch COD4 before realising that is futile. For want of a better, yeah. Dearie me. Okay.
You really shouldn't be surprised by us throwing away a lead anymore. It shouldn't come as a shock.
No, absolutely not. But let's try and... Strangely, I did feel like it was a week for plenty of moments, highlights or lowlights, I guess. So, Paul, why don't you kick us off?
My highlight is my sort of discovery today that in comparison number of games, Mowbray's only 1 win and 1 draw ahead of Stephen Presley after 68 games, and the different reactions to that on Twitter were quite interesting, I think.
What were the different reactions?
Well, some people... me and Joey had this discussion, and there was a thing on... A couple of people rang in CWR after the game, and it's like, oh, Mowbray's the best manager in this division. How can you dare criticise him? And I was like, okay. Let's just look at the comparison. I mean, the easiest comparison is Presley after 68 games, and it's just... It's amazing how people seem to think that Mowbray's had a really hard deal, even compared to Presley. And I'm not saying that managing Coventry is the easiest thing in the world, but compared to what Presley had to deal with, I think he's had it slightly easier. And also people are like, oh yeah, but I'd rather watch a Mowbray team than a Presley team. And it's like, well, yeah and no. I mean, if you didn't go to Sixfields, which I understand why people didn't, your only point of reference is Presley the season before last, when we were pretty shit and he got fired. But the season at Sixfield, when we were winning 5-4 and 4-3 and scoring lots of goals, and we had Leon Clark, Callum Wilson, Musa and Baker flying forward, we had some really exciting games. And it's sort of like, if your only reference point for Mowbray was the first 4 games of this season, you'd think that we played turgid football under Mowbray, where everyone who went last season knows that when we had Murphy, when we had Armstrong, we had Madison, when we had Joe Cole flying, we were a really exciting team to watch.
Well, that ultimately only lasted us half, didn't it? It wasn't like it was the full season. He managed half of it and then made the pig zero of it. Yeah,
and it's also the reasons, people are making this comparison that sort of, oh, Mowbray's had it. People are actually saying Mowbray had it far worse than Presley. And you're like, well, Presley had 2 transfer embargoes, the move to Sixfields, and Presley didn't have it easy at all. But the thing is, and it's like, oh, if Mowbray had the team Presley had, and you're like, so was Presley's team a lot stronger than Mowbray's team? And you're almost sort of sat there going, if you look at it balanced, they both had a season when they had a good team.
Mowbray had everything and more last season. Everything afforded to him.
And it's one of those ones. I don't want Tony Mowbray sacked before anyone starts shouting at me. However, I think that you've got to sit here and you've got to say there are legitimate criticisms over Tony Mowbray's management of this football club and Mowbray's management of some of the players. However, that's not saying I think Stephen Presley should be put back in charge, because I think he got sacked at about the right time. So I thought it was an interesting comparison between the two. And if you're pro Mowbray, you can find things to go, oh, well, he's still under Sisu. And it's like, he is. There's no denying, Sisu are a hindrance and would be a hindrance on any manager. But let's not pretend that Mowbray's had the hardest deal in the world. He still had the chance to bring in the players he's brought in last season. He still had, at one point, the best team in the division, and we still finished 8th.
The idea that Presley had a better squad, that's fucking ludicrous.
Yep.
Neil, moment of the week?
I had a few things come to mind this week. And this is like in our typical sort of misappropriating the round kind of thing. It's not really a moment, it's just sort of amusing. Mark Marshall. He was good, wasn't he?
Yeah, I liked him.
I didn't like him when he was with us.
No.
But annoyingly, he's kind of like, he scores that goal against us, and it just frustrates me how this player, who in my mind should never be our level, he's like kind of beneath us in my, this brilliant sort of commentary level I have in my head. But these players always destroy us or score goals or make it difficult for us against us. And it's just strange. We're still there, aren't we? We're still that low-level, horrible League One team.
I couldn't really understand it. I don't think he's a first-choice Cov player, but I thought he would have been an able backup for that squad. I didn't think there was anything wrong with him at all.
I don't know. I think I didn't see him as much as you guys. That was the Sixfield season, wasn't it? So I only picked up on a few away games, and every time I saw him, he was dross.
I think as well what maybe made him look a lot better was the fact that it was at a time when Presley were signing literally anyone, and that he was just one of the ones that was slightly better, I suppose.
Was that sort of Denzel Slager kind of
Jamal
era?
Loza.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, it was literally anyone.
He really was just anybody who he could get his hands on, and he was one that sort of played 5 or 6 games, so he looked better by comparison. Sorry, Paul, you were going to say?
I tweeted, I think at half time, that I thought Lewis Page and Turnbull were going to cause disasters. And someone said, well, how's Marshall playing? And I tweeted back going, if he was a better player, we'd already be behind, or something to that effect. And then he's not that good. I mean, he's plainly quite stupid on the ball, as he had one opportunity in the first. They had a corner where they rolled the ball to him in the box, and he had like 10 minutes to pick what he was going to do, and ended up running down the blind alley and having a poor shot. And his teammate just looked at him and then started going, what the fuck was that? And I think that's, but that's what you get from those sort of players at League One, where
is that
the next time he gets the ball, he cruised it into the bottom corner, but that was his first goal for Bradford, so we can't say, that's just a one-off, isn't it? He hit the ball as sweet as he could and went in the bottom corner.
You're not even talking about the Mark Marshall moment there either, are you? In terms of, apart from the goal, in terms of cock-ups, was the open goal that he decided to try and beat 8 players before actually hitting it, or is that the same thing?
No, I forgot about that one. And there was also the one in the first half where he was on right in front of Stuart McCall, and they had a throw-in, and Stuart McCall was showing him how to position himself to receive the ball from a throw-in.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he's crap.
I don't think he's crap. I think he's a bit like Kyle Reid, isn't he? I think they're probably very much interchangeable.
Oh, more on that later, I imagine. Mine? I don't know. I liked the look of Dan Agyei, I suppose. I guess.
We go. Can I just pin mine on? I had sort of a secondary. You're saying Agyei, aren't you? As in the pronunciation.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how it's spelt. So, bloody listening to the match on the radio, and all we had was a guy. There's like no effort there at all to pronounce that correctly. They just saw the first syllable, last syllable, and who cares what's going on in the middle? They just said it, and it was just like, put some effort in. Read the word. Sorry, that's just my frustration.
No, I'm completely with you, and it reminds me that there were no 2 pronunciations the same on CWR afterwards. Everyone who rang up had just got a different name for him, yeah. I don't understand how it's that hard.
They struggle with everything.
And I don't mean his specifically, just, I mean, it was Boozlin was the best, weren't it? Which I admit is a bit of a minefield, but it's not, or even Vincelo's not that, like, prescriptive, but some of the...
You've got to settle on one, haven't you, really?
Some of the shit that you hear people coming out with, it's brilliant. Paul, you were on CWR this morning?
Oh yeah, I'm all over it now.
How'd you get on?
I'm there. Well, I had about 2 minutes, and I basically really condensed everything I would normally say about Cov, but without swearing, and trying to make it sound strangely quite positive.
Did you
was this just an impromptu phone call, or was it all planned?
I've been invited to be their Monday morning go-to guy.
Oh, wow. Did they introduce you properly as, Paul Knowles from the Neil Lamptey Show?
No, I thought I might build that in over the season.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
I would give him strict instructions when he called up on Saturday to plug the show. Did he do it? No. Nothing. He absolutely don't know which side his bread's buttered.
Well, what's worse is you're plugging someone else's show now.
You've only ever used this as a possibility of getting onto CWR full time. This has just been a stepping stone for you, isn't it? This is the most Cov podcast you can possibly imagine.
I'm going to leave when I'm on the Pink podcast, when I'm down with my homies from the CT.
Mate, you're not using that. You're not using us as a stepping stone to that. That's vice versa.
Step down.
Jokes, guys, jokes. Let's talk about the Bradford game then. Paul, you were there. I was there. We all saw it.
Tony Mowbray loves making changes. Tony Mowbray loves making the changes. I bet he has a new bathroom suite every 2 years. He's sick to death of sitting on the toilet and looking at the same bath.
Could I very quickly interject here? Spoken with the anger of a man who has recently been to pick out a new bathroom set, ladies and gentlemen, just in case you wouldn't have known that was an incongruous reference.
He's got more than me.
Yeah, this is a woman who has had to go and look for a bathroom set, just in case you wondered whether that was a coincidence. No, go proceed.
Yeah, on Saturday I spent an hour and a half in a bath stop with a 18-month-old and a 4-year-old. Anyway, so me and Joey drive up to the football. On the way there, it's like, okay, what team's he picked today, Mr. Randomer? So it's like, oh, he's kept Reece Charles Cook in goal. That makes sense. Oh, he's dropped Kieran Harris because he's playing really well and looking really solid at the back. Okay, that makes sense. And he's brought in Turnbull. Okay. And he's dropped Ryan Haynes because he doesn't like him, and he likes the lad from West Ham, who on his debut looked pretty average and was dropped for the next game when Ryan Haynes returned. Okay, so he's changed 2 of his back 5 on the same side, who have never played with each other together against Bradford away, where we know it's really difficult and they're winning lots of games. Okay. He's brought Stevenson back in for a midfield 3, so he's already ditched his 3-4-3 for a 3-5-2. He's got Kyle Reid up front, and when we explain this to people who support Bradford, who have watched him play a lot, when we went, we're playing Kyle Reid up front, they went, you what? You're doing what? You fucking mad bastards. You're doing what? Yeah, we're playing Kyle Reid up front.
Actual laugh out loud.
The Bradford
from Bradford
fans thought that was great. And then obviously we had the new guy. I'm going to call him Danny because, as everyone knows, I can't pronounce them their funny names. So Danny started. Danny is what we were told. He's big, he's powerful, he's left-footed, and he looked really quite good. There's no denying it. In the first 20 minutes, he probably a bit more confidence, a bit more league football. He probably would have got a couple more shots. He was completely dominant against him every time. And we played this really high pressing game. And Bradford did that thing that teams like to do now, where they're a footballing side, so they play it out from the back. But the problem is they're playing out the back with Bradford players into Bradford midfielders. And they're not that good. And we basically pressured them. Couldn't turn on the ball. They had to go back to the centre halves. We put pressure on the centre halves. Stevenson made a fantastic tackle. Danny went 3 one-on-one with the keeper, chipped the keeper, and we're 1-0 up. And this is good. We're 1-0 up away at Bradford. And then slowly we stopped doing what we were doing. We started to drop a little bit. I don't know if you've been to Bradford, but we were in the upper tier on the left-hand side. We were right next to, across from Stuart McCall. And after about 20, 30 minutes, he started pulling Mark Marshall over and basically giving him instructions, which were, you see that massive gap in front of you, just stay in that massive gap. Because Lewis Page is going forward, there's a gap there. Just stay in it and you'll cause problems. And he did. And he started to cause massive problems because Lewis Page didn't know where he was meant to be stood on the pitch, let alone who he was meant to be marking. And Turnbull wasn't sure whether or not he should go wide or stay inside. No one was managing the situation. No one was going, look, we're 1-0 up. You just stick with Mark Marshall because we don't need you to fly forward because we're 1-0 up. The important thing now is to keep being 1-0 up. But Lewis Page didn't really heed any advice anyone said to him and just buggered off and did his own. And at one point he was bollocked by both Chris McCann and Jordan Turnbull for basically just giving up a player who was running through, which I think Joey was even more disgusted with than I was.
I have strong opinions about that chap.
Go on.
I usually bang on about 10 games, blah, 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 like a boring dick always. I'm not having Lewis Page already in a really big way.
Is this just genuinely, is he He's got any redeeming features. Let's start with the good. What's he got good going for him?
He's quite pretty.
Yeah, he fits into what is an increasingly boy band looking team. But not like 90s boy band, like Blue when they got back together. He isn't really, really slow.
How do you know? Because I've never seen him sprint.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so actually, scratch that. Can I look while we're here? I'll get it off my chest and then I'll move on. I know this is a fascination of English football, but I do think there is some merit to it, even though it feels dirty to say it. I do think that whilst effort isn't everything, and I am going to sound like a little Englander, bearing in mind how much I banged on about Andy Rose last week, I do expect to see a modicum of it, and I don't think he shows any. But worse than that, he also then castigates those around him, despite him having a much worse game, and just not being in a position where he can be the one that's calling people out.
And him being new as well. You can't have a go at people when you're new.
Yeah, but as well, not like... You know when Sam Ricketts shouts at someone, and you're like, that feels like it's constructive shouting? This felt like it was just being a bellend. Where you were like, it was your fault anyway, but you're the one that's shouting out, what exactly are you saying when it was you that was out of position? There was a number of times where his winger beat him, and then he just stopped. He just, he didn't make any attempt to follow him or track back or anything. Just stopped. Just was like, fuck it, I'm just not bothering then. And then the final piece of the puzzle, in terms of why I'm so angry about it, is Ryan Alsop syndrome. Where you've got a perfectly good, same-aged player in the same position who's being kept out, who's, if anything, is a lot better, I would suggest, but crucially is ours.
Yeah.
No excuse. And it was something that I was thinking about during the game, is West Ham are in the process of trying to buy any left-back that they can possibly get because Aaron Cresswell's injured and they're like really short in the squad. And Aaron Cresswell got injured while Lewis Page was still there before they sent him out on loan. And they still sent him out on loan despite the fact that they haven't got any other left-backs in the squad. Or they've got no more cover. They might have one knocking about. I can't remember who's playing for them there at the moment. But he is clearly such an unpalatable choice to West Ham. At 20, mind, he's not 17. He's such an unpalatable choice for West Ham, and they were like, fuck it, we'll just get rid of him to a League One club. It really, really, really bugs me, because it strikes me that it's, let's get a kid from a Premier League club. We don't need to have a look at him. We'll just get him. And crucially, I know that Paul has talked about before, it just feels like he don't like Ryan Haynes for some reason.
He's done that a lot, hasn't he?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of that going on, yeah. And I don't think this Mowbray out thing, which one is massively overplayed, I think it's one or two people who bark at the moon that have said that, and then everyone jumps on it and is like, oh, the people that say the Mowbray out are blah, blah. Very few people are saying it. Just put your phone down. I think you can criticise him whilst acknowledging that he is a good manager, and that I think he's one of the... I think he's as good as we're likely to get, or roughly speaking. I wouldn't want to sack him. I'm nowhere near that. But I do think he has got things to point the finger at, which is where I'll pass it back over to Paul, because I think you're probably quite neatly happy to take over from that point, aren't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, as I said, it was where we were sat. And I know sometimes where you sit in the ground does make a big difference. You could see from about half an hour into the game that... And because of what happened with Stuart McCall and Mark Marshall, you knew they were targeting those two players. You could see it, and they started to really dominate that part of the pitch to the point where they put 3 or 4 really good crosses that no one got on the end of. But it was that area was going to be... You could see it was going to be critical. It just was going to be the critical part of the pitch. And the first half, sort of, it was probably... I said first 25, 30 minutes, it was Cov. It was all Cov, and they probably should have been 2-0 up. They had the chances. As I said, Danny doesn't quite look like he quite believes that he's good enough yet. He had a couple of really good runs, but he didn't quite pull it off, and he didn't quite go for the killer blow, but there is definitely a player there. Carl Reid is just Carl Reid, where he gets in positions where you think he could shoot, and he just wanders a bit further left, so he crosses out into the stand. And, you know, there's still not many goals from midfield or any shots from midfield. So, you know, unless it was going to be a Danny wonder goal, we weren't going to score a second, but we were clearly on top. And I said after the half an hour, Bradford got a bit more confident. The ball was going into their midfielders, and they were turning on the ball, and they were beginning to run at our midfield, and they were beginning to get confident in a way that they hadn't been for the first half an hour, because it wasn't easy for them. I'd say after half an hour we started to protect what we had, made it a bit easier for Bradford. Bradford aren't the sort of team who are going to pass that up. Second half, you could just see it was slowly building. Bradford were on top. Not completely hammering us, but they were on top. And when he brought on Tudgay, you could sort of see what he was trying to achieve by that sub. It's, you know, Tudgay's the senior spokesman in the group. He is the striker. Okay, he's not going to give us the pace, but you'd hope he'd get on the ball and hold it up, which is something that Danny wasn't doing anymore. And when he walked off, you could see that, you know, I know we talk about this, he's 19. It's sort of your debut. You're running on adrenaline as much as anything else. You're obviously he's a very fit lad, but your debut, you're not running on fitness. You're running on the adrenaline of it. Must be a tiring experience just having that experience anyway. So all those were like, oh, you shouldn't have taken him off. If you were there, you could see that around about that point, it was beginning to be like, I'll give him an hour. After an hour, I'll assess him. And I didn't hear anyone complain at the time when he took him off, because it was like, that makes sense. But there were other subs. The subs later on, you were a bit, because then they went through, they broke through, the guys got in front of Turnbull, and Turnbull just pulled him back. And it's a penalty and it's a red card. And it's a case of, you've done that because you've literally had nothing else you could do, so you just tugged him. And I don't understand. He's got sent off for being A, positionally shit, B, shit, and C, we're now okay, Reece Cook might take the penalty, but Bradford are definitely on top now. And people are clapping him off the pitch. And you're like, why are you clapping him? Why? He hasn't done anything to deserve to be clapped. He's just been sent off stupidly
people
in a game where... Yeah, and it's I think Hignett got sent off once against Burnley for like either swearing at the referee or kicking someone, and people are clapping him off. You're like, well, we're going to get fucking hammered now, and he's got sent off being a dick, and you're clapping him. It's like, this doesn't make sense. And they scored the penalty, and it's a great penalty in the corner. And then it all starts shooting.
Whoa. Have you seen the penalties back?
Yeah.
I didn't think the first one was a great penalty.
He nearly saved it, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think he nearly saved it. It was so hard and so in the corner. He didn't. And we said this at the time. Some COD fans to our right cheered. I thought he'd got there.
Yeah,
it's so hard and so in the corner. I think some penalties are just very difficult to save. I think that was one of them.
I didn't think it was an awful penalty, but I didn't think the second one, I was like, wow, that's a pen. The first one, I could see why Reece Cook was like so distraught at not having got it. He was really close to it, weren't he?
Yeah, but I think if he doesn't hit it that hard, he might have saved it. I think it's just a really well hit penalty.
Fair enough.
But at the end of the day, don't bring the guy down in the box. Don't give them the penalty. And then he put on Kieran Harris and still play. And then we played. So we were playing sort of 3-4-2. And no, he took off Reid, didn't he? So he basically went 3-5-1. And you were like, well, that doesn't make sense because Tudgay's not quick. He's not an outlet. You probably better either sacrifice someone else and keeping Carl Reid on the pitch, because at least then you've got some sort of counter-attack. And then Mark Marshall wanders across the pitch with all of our players going, oh, it's Mark Marshall. I wonder what he can do with it. Oh, shit, he's put it in the bottom corner from 25 yards. Like, no one went to... It's like, he's just meandering across the pitch, like, oh, you know, I'll have a fag and sit down and read the paper. Oh, I can have a shot from here. It's like, what are you doing? You've got to close him down from there.
It was pretty good.
And then it's 2-1. It's a good shot, but he's not under any pressure, is he?
Not especially.
You know, he's not like...
Well, no,
he hasn't got the shot. He hasn't skinned anyone, and he hasn't got the shot away under any pressure. If you watch it, you're like, he's in 5 yards of space there.
I don't mind
And then
that goal too much.
Well, fair enough. And then we start sort of making lots of subs because, like, then we take off Ricketts. And it's just like, well, Ricketts isn't, to some extent, taking Ricketts off and leaving your back four as that inexperienced doesn't make any sense either. You'd almost be better taking Tudguy back off and just accepting the fact that Tudguy was coming on to do, it's almost like Tudguy came on to do one job, but that job's redundant, so you might as well take him off and bring someone else on to do a different type of job. But, you know, the subs were what they were, and we went to a flat back four, and Kieran Harris just wandered around going, look, I'm so good at this game football that basically maybe the reason Mowbray isn't playing me every week because he knows if I play every week, he's going to have to sell me in January because it's like I'm that good. And you're like, you know, we watched Turnbull for it's like 60 minutes be shit, and you've come on for half an hour, and I appreciate the fact that you're quality. And, you know, so the positives are Ben Stevenson still looks like a really good footballer. Let's hope we don't ruin him. Kieran Harris is a quality footballer. We're not going to be able to fuck him over because he ain't going to be here that long. And the rest of the team still look very much like a team who you put them under pressure, they sort of fold.
Question.
Didn't think go on.
Oh, you're about to answer it about McCann. I just wanted to see how he got on because his first game was a little bit hit and miss.
Same.
Expectation is a bugger. I always thought that Kevin Nolan was going to be a really top quality player. Same with Nigel Reo-Coker. And they never lived up to the expectations I put on them. The expectations I had on Chris McCann was this guy's going to be very good. Not brilliant because he's in League One, but this guy's going to be very good. I've seen a player who so far has been bang average and in quite a disappointing way. Now, I'm not sure if that's my fault for having the expectation I put on him due to everyone telling me how good he is, or it's the fact that he hasn't played a lot of games yet and he will get a lot better. But I was surprised by how poor he was in certain aspects of his game. His passing was pretty bad. His tackling was pretty non-existent at times. He disappeared from the game for a good period. I was surprised by how poor he was. And I know Joey thought he had a better game than I did. But as I said, I think the jury's out. Obviously, he's only played twice. But I was expecting a lot better than what I've seen so far.
I think you were right when you said he was bang average. I think what's really pertinent is you talking about expectations. I think that Ben Stevenson was marginally better than McCann. Across the full 90 minutes, I thought Stevenson started a lot better, but then McCann started better and then dropped off as he went through the game. But with Stevenson being a 19-year-old kid who really I've not really ever seen anything of before, and McCann being someone that we were told, you know, is a championship midfielder, blah 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 blah. It makes them look miles apart, doesn't it? It makes them look worlds apart. And I didn't think that McCann did anything wrong particularly, but I would also suggest that they weren't helped by what I felt was the biggest wrong decision, which was to go 1-0 up and then change the way that you're playing, in that we stopped pressing high up the pitch and we tried to sit on a 1-0 lead for 75 minutes. I didn't realise at the game how quickly we'd scored. I think it was on 16 minutes.
Yeah, it was early.
I think,
but I don't think anyone was helped by it. I think that Gadjev dropped off because he was more equipped at playing further forward. I think he clogged up the space that Stevenson and McCann were operating in. I think that the strikers were less effective. I think everything. I'd never understand the idea of going to. If it was Man United or something, or if there was any reason, even not Man United, I said this during the game. There should be no greater evidence of what you're doing being a success than going 1-0 up. It just seems absurd to me to then change it. What so precious about a 1-0 lead? Sorry, that's bollocks. It's too precious, effectively, isn't it? It can be damaged too quickly, and all it would have taken was Mark Marshall scoring the goal that he did. It wouldn't have needed the penalties or anything. And then by the time that you've got to the point where he did score, you've so drastically changed your first team, like irreparably changed it, that should one goal go in like that, you've got no way back out, and you're also then up against mounting momentum. Just to be that early on was really annoying to me. It just felt like we were the architects of our own downfall as usual.
But it feels like a sort of a hallmark of Mowbray, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's something that he kind of. I look at what his decisions, and it's kind of. I know he's a manager and he's there to make tough decisions, but it just feels like the decisions he makes are always risks and ones that you will regret if they don't go right. So in that, it's sort of like the Ryan Haynes one the other week. The decision that you'd make is, if you keep him on the pitch, you're not going to regret it if he doesn't have a good game because he had a good game before. You're within your rights to play him again. Taking him out is a risk because if it doesn't go right, you're like, well, why the fuck don't I just keep him in? And it's the same with like penalty takers and all that sort of stuff. Like, just stick with the person who you think's got a best chance of scoring. Yeah. Like last season, why didn't we just get Adam Armstrong on all our pens? Just because if he misses, I wouldn't be pissed off because it's like he's our top scorer.
Yeah.
It's fine. The other way around, but he just making these really weird sort of trying to be too clever, overthinking it almost. Like, maybe I'll try and like reverse psychology and stuff like that. It's like, no, this is real life. Just make decisions based on what's happening. That's all you can do. You can't conjure up anything magical. Just be a manager. And at the moment, he's just making too many sort of high risk decisions, which just come from left field, and they just don't make any sense to anybody.
And I also feel that the decision to switch around a lot is one. I mean, the regular thing that comes out. And I might be completely out of order here because I've got no reason to think that he's not a man of his word, but that he talks a lot about players being either tired or it being a long season, you need to rotate, which I accept, but I do more fear that he actually doesn't know his first choice starting 11. Like if he was in a cup final and everyone was fully fit, and I ultimately don't think he knows who the best 11 players are in that squad, and that's worrying to me because... But
he's had opportunity, doesn't he, to sort of establish that in his mind. I mean, I know it's only been 5 games so far, but
he sees him in training every day, and
like we won that Portsmouth game, so the opportunity was almost there. I know we say, we've got to change it around, but the opportunity was there to stick with exactly the same team that saw us through, and then you can make decisions based off that. But what you do is you disrupt it, change it, and then suddenly you lose all that reference, and there's just no unit to base off because you've already broken up that one that won, and then the one that comes in has lost confidence because they didn't win. It's just like, I just stick to what you know. We always say stick with the winning formation. Like, it's hard enough to find a good unit. Don't fuck around with it. It's only August. You've got to. What we're trying to do at the moment is find that winning unit, but you're never going to do it if you're just constantly changing.
Paul, you're going to say something?
I still can't believe he I've got a couple of points on what he tried to say. I couldn't believe it when I saw that he dropped when he brought in both Turnbull and Page. It just didn't make any sense. I mean, Haynes has trained all summer to play in this 3-5-2. I know people keep telling me that Turnbull plays in the left-hand side of the back three and that's where he's comfortable. He didn't look comfortable in that position, but maybe that's because Lewis Page didn't know where to stand. So it was almost a case of Turnbull didn't know whether to stick or twist. He didn't know whether to go wide or stay inside. But goes back to another point I was about to make about, I don't think we stopped pressing after a certain amount of time. I think what happened was Bradford started to realise that there was an easy way out. And that easy way out was basically pushing Mark Marshall really high up in the space behind the wing back and to the left of the centre back. And they basically kept hitting that ball and they kept utilising and they kept basically dragging us down that one side, which meant their left back was free because we couldn't get over because obviously it's Kelly Evans who's got to go to the left back, but they've dragged everyone over, so Kelly Evans is obviously going to go from right back to left back because he's going to leave 20 yards behind him in the player. So I think Bradford, and it's full credit to Stuart McCall, he worked to sell. He went, look, what we're doing isn't working. There is an opportunity here. There's a massive weakness in the way that Coventry City play at the moment, and we can exploit that weakness. And they started to turn us round. And I think it must be a natural instinct as a footballer to sort of go, okay, maybe I'll start dropping off a bit because I'm concerned about this position. I don't think McCann was helped by the fact he was so close to them pair. I can't agree more. As everyone know, like he just rotates the team. I don't understand it. Bradford didn't. Bradford beat Milton Keynes away. and they came to us and they looked like a team who were flexible within the system they were playing, but they had a system they were trying to achieve. They didn't really go from that. They just moved players slightly around within it. But you think already this season we played 3-4-3 and 3-5-2. Maybe that's due to injuries, but you also look at the squad and it's just we've got 4 centre backs, so he's going to play 3 of those. So now Turnbull's injured or suspended. We're back down to having only 3 first choice centre halves. We've got 3 central midfielders plus Andy Rose, who's playing as a right wing back. So if anything happens to McCann, Stevenson or Gad, or where Gadget's best position is it in a midfield too? But then he's got 10 players who can play in the front 3. And it's just, did he learn nothing from last season? He's just overloaded his front 3. So he's got so many options now. And when they're all fit, you could basically have a goalkeeper and 10 strikers on the pitch, or 10 attacking players. And you think, well, he's complaining about his lack of budget. So why have we got, is Kwame Thomas third choice centre forward behind Sordell and Danny? Well, then you've got, Ramirez, Jones, Carl Reed, Spence, who played up front. You've got Jack McBean, which seems a really odd loan, which doesn't seem to make any sense, but he's another striker. At least if he was another centre-half, you'd be like, oh, if anything happens to Ricketts, at least we can have him on the bench just in case. But he's another striker. It's like, well, he's fourth choice centre forward. Is that really what we need at this point when we're playing 1 striker from 2 either side of him? It's like the squad's completely imbalanced. And it's people say, we're bringing in all these young players. And it's like, we didn't have to bring in. It's like, let's get it straight. Mowbray's been given a budget. He's decided what he's going to do with that budget. Now, his decision has been to bring in a lot of youngsters. Now, I'm sure he could have got 28, 29-year-olds on probably similar fees, because there are a lot of players out there who are looking for football clubs. So Mowbray's made this conscious decision to go with a young squad. That's fine, but don't then sort of turn around and go, oh, he's only got a young squad. He's brought in the players he's wanted to bring in to an extent. I know they're not his first choice, but he's looked at what he wants to bring in, and he's gone for that style of player. And then he's talking about, we're still going to bring in a couple of Premiership loans. So it's like, you're still going to bring in a couple more teenagers. You look at that squad now, and you're like, is what that squad needs 2 or 3 more teenagers? For me, what that squad needs is 2 or 3 senior heads. Because if Ricketts gets injured, or Ricketts misses 3 games, suddenly we've got 3 defenders, all in 21. And it's just, I look at it, and someone said, do you think we'll get relegated this season? I don't know. I don't. What worries me against Bradford is I saw a team that played really well for half an hour, but once Bradford got into the game, we couldn't wrestle control back. We couldn't enforce our will on the game again. We basically let Bradford dictate the entire second half. And I know Bradford are going to be one of the better teams, but when you see that on the back of the Shrewsbury and Bury game, you're still thinking, who are the... I'm not talking leaders in terms of Roy Keane, I'm just talking players who can get back onto an even keel, just calm the ball down, or, just give us that lift when we need it. I don't see those players in the squad. We might sign them. We might sign some genius kid from Liverpool who's like, the next Zidane. But I just look at it now, it's like, I don't think we need that player.
Right, should we leave that there, Bradford-wise? Anyone got any final things? No, that sounds like a no.
No. Sorry, was that a question to me?
Well, yeah, no, sorry. Yeah. I'm saying, shall we leave it there?
One final thing.
Has got, we'll go. Yeah.
One final thing. While I won't contest to be his biggest fan, I did think that, on balance, Jordan Willis had a very good game.
Oh, yeah.
And I know he does play himself into trouble, but I think he did what we had hoped other players would do. He covered a lot. I think he made 2 blocks on the line, which would have made it 4 and 5-1. And he does manage to have the ability to rectify his mistakes. And I think he's a player who deserves quite a bit of credit for the way he started the season.
Yeah, he significantly won me over on Saturday. Is that the best we've seen him play?
Probably.
I think so, yeah. I think he was not brilliant, but I thought he was really good. And like you say, I think I guess his assets are athletic, aren't they? And I think they really showed on Saturday. And yeah, I was really impressed. I was really pleased. Yeah.
No, as I say, I don't think he was brilliant, but I don't think anyone was an 8 out of 10, were they?
No. Right, so should we do the world's smallest Northampton preview? Northampton have a fascinating
I
start.
need to know, I want to know about Norwich. Tell me.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry. No, we're not even acknowledging the existence of that Norwich game. We shan't be talking about it next week, and we won't be previewing it. I hope that's all right with everyone. Northampton, we've got them on Saturday at home. They have played 4 games so far. They've drawn all of them, which is brilliant. I mean, it couldn't be any more obvious what's going to happen on Saturday.
Well, Robert Page sorry, Joey, I can interject here. I have some knowledge. They're on a really long unbeaten spell. And Robert Page has come out in the press and said he's worried about the fact they're on such a long unbeaten spell that they're two of... Remember Lee Clark when 80 games at Birmingham without losing, but they won one of them?
It was
I think it was a bit like that at Northampton. I think he did it both Huddersfield and Brum. But it was...
The Huddersfield one was the one that was very, very long, yeah.
Yeah, I think Robert Page is I think the players are so concerned about losing that they're not trying to win, or at least that's how he feels.
Well, and bearing in mind that we're trying really hard not to score, I should imagine it's going to be a thriller on Saturday. Right, some Northampton stuff for you then. They have John Joe O'Toole in midfield, which is only really an opportunity to talk to you about last season's John Joe O'Toole Day. Are you aware of this?
No.
They ran, I think it was last season rather than the season before. They had, I think it was like a sort of semi tongue-in-cheek thing. They had like an officially sanctioned John Joe O'Toole Day one Saturday where they were playing, where he promptly got himself sent off after about 18 minutes.
What a knob!
It's fantastic behaviour as far as I'm concerned. They have Aaron Phillips in their squad, having signed them off us. Yeah, they do indeed. Yeah. Then they signed Alex Raval in the summer. That feels like the sort of player that scores against us a lot. Although I'll probably have a look at it, and it turns out that he's never scored against us. But a decent-ish signing for a team that I think are badly going to struggle this season. Kenji Gore's all right. I was probably mispronouncing that. Bear in mind we started this saying about mispronouncing things, me cocking that up, and Paul just going for Danny the entire time. Probably doesn't stand us in very good stead. And Gabriel Zakuani.
Know your limitations, Joey.
Quite. Gabriel Zakuani's a decent defender as well. We don't do predictions anymore, but I keep saying that. I think I've probably said that every pod for about the last 6 months.
Home.
So, have we got anything else?
We're in a relegation.
I'm going for 4 changes.
You're going for 4 changes. What? That's your prediction?
My prediction. We're not going for goals anymore. We're going for the number of changes. I'm predicting 4.
How very droll. Okay.
But no, I'm not. I don't care about the Norwich game. But I think there'll be 4 changes from the team that play on Saturday.
Okay.
Quite confident in that. And as Neil says, we're third from bottom or second from bottom.
I think we're third from bottom. I think Wimbledon are dead
4th.
bottom.
21st.
But it's all bollocks anyway at the moment. So I'm not.
I know it's all bollocks. It's the idea of just I have in my mind, hey, we're now a top 6 club. We got to go up still because of what happened last year. And I just look at this and think, well, we've got less points than we played games. When is that going to change?
Yeah, that is a shit.
And I'm not sure. I don't like that stat. I never like it. I want us to get out of that straight away, but because the longer that goes on, the more you're going to be struggling.
I'm going to throw in one of those things that Joey hates. We're already 6 points down on the equivalent fixtures from last season.
That's 2 wins.
Yeah, but we got the 4 teams who played so far this season.
Much more
we didn't lose to last season.
And just to finish that off, if my auntie had wheels, should be a car. I think that probably is about a good point for us to finish, isn't it?
You're a miserable bastard.
Stats. Paul, thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Neil, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.